a pulse survey is designed to be a way to engage with your staff in a very quick manner to ask them the question, as just as Kim said, and I think as Richard echoed, just ask them. So, but the question is, what should we be asking? And so I don't know if you want to play the pulse survey again there, Ken. But yeah, sorry, you might have to go back to the slide. Go back to the slide prior and then come into this slide again and it'll play. But what questions do we ask them? So this is a pulse survey that's texted to your employees. They click on the link and they get the survey. And this particular survey just has 5 questions asking them about, do they understand their role? Do they have what they need to complete their role? Is there anything else they need? Do they feel like they're able to have feedback to coworkers? Is there teamwork? And can they have feedback to their managers? And so it's just a really quick survey. And before sending it out, if you were to do a survey, a pulse survey for your staff, some of the things you would want to do is set the expectation for what was coming, educate them on why you were asking them so that folks participate, and make them feel safe. So if you're in an environment where folks already don't feel safe, then you'll have to do an extra upfront preparation for them to let them know that their answers, their honest answers wouldn't be held against them. And then if they don't participate on the first text, it could be because they were busy and they forgot. So you can remind them and text them again so you can get folks to participate in that. But you want to make it convenient. You don't want to waste their time. Don't make them enter their information. Don't ask them how old they are. You already know that. Just ask them the pertinent questions. I can tell you how many surveys I've taken where there's a bunch of questions about who I am, and then they say they're anonymous. And I'm like, okay, you've asked me my age, my weight, my eye color, my hair color. This is not anonymous. Don't tell me this is anonymous. Just go ahead and know who I am and ask me the question and stop wasting my time. And then use compassion if you do a staff survey, a pulse survey, in that you make sure you word the questions in a way that considers their need. So if you word the questions in a way that is just toward your own or the organization's need, then folks are unlikely to answer it or participate. And then provide recognition back on how many folks completed it, because of course there's always that herd mentality that if 90%, I was one of the 10% didn't answer it, I guess I'll answer it next time. But give back the results. So after you answer that, have the pulse survey, let them know how many people did feel like they had an opportunity to develop in their organization. What was that percentage? Don't just keep that information hidden. Let them know what the results were, and then contextualize those results by telling them what that means, and then use the results, show progress. Say, okay, we've seen that X% of folks don't really understand their job, so we're making this change in the organization. We are going to have, new written, we're going to ask everybody to spend 10 minutes to identify what they think their responsibilities are, and then we're going to have, a 10-minute, whatever it is, the intervention that you decide to do in relation to those answers. And so in the next slide, I'll just run through what that looks like if we take that through further. So let's say we get back the results, and in this case, 29 out of 34 people don't really feel like they know their expectations, and 27 people don't feel like teamwork is part of the company. And then in terms of, if you reassess over time, you can see if that changes individually within folks. And then here, if you were not doing an anonymous survey, you can also see who the staff are that you're at risk of losing because they have a lot of needs that are unaddressed. So at the top here are the staff that have answered in a way that expressed a lot of needs that could be addressed. And then over here in the example of it at the aggregate level, we can see that the highest thing is know your role, expectation, teamwork, and recommend your company. Would you recommend your company then being the next one as having a concern for us? So if we look at that data in a way that we look at it over time, and we've reassessed on that same assessment later, what we can now do is look at, for those who have resolved a certain area, what was it that they resolved that led to their ability to resolve other areas? And so what this is saying, if who resolved 90% of their needs, and if they resolved 90% of the needs, what was the most significant need that they resolved first. So what this is going to identify is that as it updates here is when you resolve, knowing what your role expectation is, and secondly, feedback to having the ability to provide feedback to your manager, then this next analysis shows that 86% of those people that felt like they could give feedback to their manager had resolved 90% of their negative responses on that survey. So over time, looking at if we were to do an intervention, if we intervene on people being able to give feedback to their manager, that may also free up all the other areas. And if you go to the next slide, we'll dive into those folks who, these folks here, we're gonna limit it to just the folks who indicated that they had trouble giving feedback to their managers. And we're gonna see what other issues they also had. And what you'll see in this is that those who had trouble giving feedback to their manager also did not feel like they had access to things to perform their role, did not feel like they knew their expectations of the role, did not feel like they had opportunities to develop, and wouldn't recommend their company. So this is looking at associated with that inability to provide feedback to your manager. There's all these other areas. So if you just intervene on that management, on the feedback to the manager, you're actually going to resolve a lot of the other areas of need and strength to build as well. So this is kind of walking all the way through. If you do the pulse survey and you get back the results and you look at those results over time, as you continue to ask folks, some folks will have resolved just naturally, organically, what those needs are. And you can learn from that and then apply an intervention. So when that feedback to manager was resolved organically, those folks resolved all those other issues. So knowing that, we could do an intervention with our managers, trying to help them be more open to feedback from their staff. And that would be hopefully the most efficient way to address a number of different needs in the organization. And that's just an example of how you can walk through doing that pulse survey, using that information, and making it efficient. So it doesn't take up a ton of time. It's not a ton of extra cost. It's a quick thing for your staff to do. I think we saw it done at least 10 times while I was talking. So it wouldn't take more than 30 seconds or a minute for them to answer. And the amount of information you would get back could potentially be enormous in terms of where you could spend your energy to improve the well-being of your staff.